Thank you so much. Now, welcome to the segment that gives you, our viewer, an opportunity of telling us your mind and giving us your thoughts on the topic of discussion. Now, this is the first episode of season 5. Now, as usual, we're going to be looking at some of the tweets that you sent us in regards to the debts that Kenya has been piling. Now, let's move over to Twitter. Our first tweet at Hezron Ochel says, we are broke and Uhuru Ruto regime is struggling to repay debts. That's why we are asking our lenders for more time, hoping we collect enough taxes, yet we lose a third of our taxes collection to corruption. The next regime must fight corruption. That's the only hope left. Now, Ondiro, our lenders, obviously they want their money. But then if you look at what China was saying, they were like, okay, fine, we can give you a suspension. Should we be expecting something like, okay, fine, we borrow, then at the end of the day, we look for ways not to pay such kind of money?
Sorry, what?
Okay, if you look at what Kenya wants, the Minister of Treasury, he was like, Kenya needs an opportunity of where it can be helped. Right now, if you look at the conditions right now in terms of the pandemic that has affected us, obviously we need help. So, is this a routine that should be happening?
Do we really need help when the government is losing 2 billion on a daily basis to corruption, yet we borrow 2.5 billion on a daily basis? I don't think we need help. I think just like Hezron has said, tighten the loophole, save that 2 billion, and then that extra 500 billion that you need to be borrowing, ensure KRA collect taxes in a diligent manner so that everybody is paying their due tax and nobody is trying to skype the taxman, and you'll have the money. I don't think Kenya is at a place where it needs help. We are very industrious people. We are smart people. Kenyans are doing the best that they can to survive. It's the government of the day, sorry to say, that is not doing its bit.
Now, you've mentioned the 2 million per day. Now, someone might not understand what that means. Now, and our next tweet gives us a perspective of what exactly 2 million per day is. Now, at Sitati says, Kenya shillings 2 billion is stolen in Kenya daily. A week, that is 14 billion, right? In a month, it's 60 billion. And in a year, it's 730 billion Kenyan shillings. Now, if you look at Thika Superhighway, cost 32 billion. But they let us introduce new taxes so we can raise money to pay our debts. Now, he has made it, the tweet has made it exactly what 2 billion per day means. And the previous tweet was like, our leaders who are going to enter into power next should take care, should ensure that they manage the debts. Is it fair for those who will be coming in power?
2 years is a long time, and 2 years is a really short time. And it's exactly what I asked Churchill. The Jubilee administration has choices to either slow down on the borrowing, but slowing down on the borrowing means all their mega infrastructural projects will come to a sudden halt. That means they'll need alternative sources of revenue. One of the key ways is cutting down on recurrent expenditure. I don't think there's a reason why the president cannot say that everybody in government, particularly politicians, will have to take a pay cut to go back to the level of the ordinary mwananchi. I mean, like, is a teacher paid 800,000? No. Okay, so can we streamline the system? If you cut on recurrent expenditure, seal corruption loopholes, collect revenue diligently, create an enabling business environment, not just on the World Bank Index, but when people come here, you've cut out on the bureaucracies of setting business. They can employ people, they can pay taxes, there's liquidity in the market. The government settled pending bills so that SMEs can go back to doing business. I think that the Jubilee administration can fix it. The question is, do they have the goodwill to fix it? That will always be the big question. If the president says people are stealing, he's previously asked Kenyans, mnataka nifanye nini? It means there's a breakdown somewhere. But can they fix the situation? Absolutely, yes. It's as easy to borrow as it is to pay back your debt.
Okay. Now, interesting how you mentioned expenditure. Now, one of the tweets was like, okay, fine. If Kenyan government is going to give people packages, retirees packages. That package, you're giving someone a package of millions of shillings who is probably 80 years old. I mean, come on, 80 years old and a package of millions. Come on, give it to something else.
So I'll need to know the context of who's being given this package and stuff like that. But like, if I worked, you're going to pay me.
Okay, I think you're there for package. Now, our next tweet at Saimina says, again, why shouldn't we borrow for more? Our development projects, Netherlands has a debt of 466 billion US dollars, a population of 17 million, and Sweden has a debt of 198 billion dollars, a population of 10.4 million. Kenya's debt is only at 63 billion dollars, population of 50 million. Now, in 2018, President Uhuru said, okay, fine. He compared the debt of Kenya and Japan, right? But then if you look at Japan and the infrastructure, then you come and look at Kenya and with the rate of the kind of infrastructure that we have, the kind of policies that we have. Is it okay for us to be good with it now that we are comparing our nation to other countries?
I think you know the answer to that. Do you want me to allow you the opportunity to say the answer
well,
to that?
I think it's absurd and it's wrong. Obviously, you cannot compare Kenya and other countries. We should be sort of independent and think for ourselves.
I mean, if you he's mentioned Netherlands, he's mentioned Sweden.
Yeah.
Some of these Scandinavian countries, they pay high taxes. They're very diligent in the way they pay their taxes, where they invest the money. You know, some of these Nordic countries, they've explored their oil resources and then they've stored what is left for their future generations. Ni watu wamejipanga. I mean, if you look at the GDP per capita of some of these countries, if you look at the GDP conversion rate in some of these countries, then you cannot begin comparing Kenya and Japan, Kenya and Singapore, and Kenya and some of these other countries. Kenya should be compared with its mates, Uganda, Tanzania. No, okay, seriously, let's just don't laugh like that.
Yeah, okay.
Because we sort of get ahead of ourselves, but we are not yet there. If we are to compete with those people, we have to stop being an agriculturally dependent economy and move to manufacturing. We have to capitalize on artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, robotics, all those things we are not doing. What's the conversion rate of manufacturing to the GDP? 8%. The target was 15% by the year 2022. Will we hit that? So until we can compete competitively with some of those countries, stop putting yourself at the same level. Borrow what you can pay off.
Okay. When you were young, you were told, cheza na rika yako. I think Kenya should do exactly that. Our next tweet, at Kelly Gitahi says, each year, Parliament receives a debt management strategy management paper and a debt report. Members of Parliament are part and parcel of our debt problem, but they keep on pretending their hands are clean. Now, this is the problem that I have with Kenyan politicians, our MPs. They talk large, like you listen to them, they're like, okay, fine. You know, let's give this guy power. Let's give this lady a position. But then when they're given the opposition, the position to make sure that Kenyans are treated well and are taken care of, there is nothing to show off. It's all talk and no action. Yeah.
I also think the responsibility solely falls on them because they're the ones that raised the debt ceiling from 6 trillion to 9 trillion. This is the time where they would have interrogated the government and say, with this extra 3 trillion, what do you intend to do with it? How will you pay off this debt? They're very pertinent questions that should be raised that were not raised because everybody is pulling towards their party alliances and what the party leader is saying. And that broad statement, it's good for the country. Let's break down the numbers. The SGR is a fancy idea, but if the conversion rate is not as fast as it should be to pay off the debt, we become another Sri Lanka, we become another Zambia.
Okay. Now, right now, if you ask your MP, he'll be like, okay, fine. Let's talk about BBI for the meantime. Now, our next tweet at Bobby VJ says, people can shout the way they want, but Uhuru, Raila, Ruto shouldn't be seen anywhere near the ballot boxes in 2022. Failed creatures, grabbers of land, handshake is the name of unifying Kenya, but deep down, the damn country is choking with trillions of debts. Shameful. Politics of 2022. It's too early to start mentioning names, but the tweet is right. Raila, Uhuru, Ruto, these are people who have been in power. They are still in power. But what exactly are they doing to ensure that the debt is reduced? I expected Uhuru to be like, okay, fine, this is what we are doing to ensure that the next time, or probably 2022, we don't get to a point where we have to borrow. Not telling Kenyans that Kenya loses 2 billion per day to corruption. So what?
Yeah. We should begin asking for more. And I think the politicians know the buttons that they can press, you know. They know the tribal card is long gone. So right now we are seeing different slogans of BBI and Hustler Nation. But as Nana Abba and Amor told Ghanaians when they were heading to the elections, it's time Kenyans wake up and smell the coffee.
Okay. Now, let's look at some of the comments that we got from the streets.
Is something that should be taken with a lot of seriousness, because as we all know that, you know, the more we continue to borrow, the more the economy will be tougher on us. Like, most of the people lost their jobs, and now getting a job is going to be an issue. So the more the government continues to borrow, to lend money from outside, and even we don't see the work that money is being put into. So we, the young generation, we are the people who are going to suffer, because we are the ones who are going to pay it.
Taking a debt is not a problem, but because even me, I usually take debts. But if that money can be invested into something productive, so that even the economy can grow, then we will be able to pay the debt.
It's something that I don't agree to. It's time that Kenya, as a country and as a people, we stand for ourselves. Yeah, it's time that we also start lending out money. We have all the resources. Kenya is a rich country.
Yeah, I can relate. Yeah, because, like, let's say, as per now, most youths, when you search for a job, the starting salary that you're going to be issued with, maybe at the lower side, is going to be 15,000. Why? That person who is employing you, he does not want to spend a lot of that money, because he knows somewhere is going to be cut off.
The government is the biggest spender. So if the government does not have enough money, and especially in Forex, and they are not creating, they are not creating an environment to remedy that, we will not have money to buy, you know, the spending power will go down.
Being a teacher, I usually depend on tuitions, okay? So when it reaches a point where parents don't contact you, or they don't call you for tuitions, it means that their pocket is empty.
We have huge debts to pay, so meaning the taxes are gonna go high because we really need a lot to pay. We need to go on as a government, and we also need to cover up for these payments. So it's hard on us. It's hard on us as common wananchi.
Have you gone to the supermarket? Everything has been increased. And who is suffering? The person who is earning a low income.
Somehow, it's not going to be possible, because the more you continue to tax people, the more they'll continue to play low. Okay, they'll not be giving their correct financial income, okay, maybe per month or per year. So there is no way you can get the correct amount you want, because as per now, you're oppressing the people who are going to pay that tax.
Taxation will not. It is thinking out of the box. Thinking out of the box. And it is not that we don't have those brains. Look at Rwanda, who did their economic blueprint. A Kenyan. Go to London, who did their city decongestion? A Kenyan.
Literally speaking, where are we going to get the money to pay for these debts? Yeah? Where are we going to get the money to pay for these debts? And also, we also need to run as a country. So everything that keeps this country running, everything that we can be proud of as a country, comes from the common wananchi. Yeah. So I believe the taxes being shoot up to enable us pay that kind of huge amounts of money, yeah.
invest back in our country, not outside the country, so that we can get back that money.
Issue is not in increasing the debt ceiling. The issue is not in increasing the taxation. The issue is getting policies that are going to increase money in the pocket of people who buy.
Let's reduce expenditure. Let's reduce the salary of MPs. Let's reduce, instead of giving ministers 5 vehicles, let's give him 1 vehicle. Instead of giving him two security guards, let's give him 1 security guard. That's the way we can, at least the government can show us that they want to pay the debt.
We plant coffee, but why do we need to take it out of the country, then come and import it again? These are things that we actually need to put down as Kenyans and start depending on ourselves with the resources that we have, because we have a lot of resources. All we need to is empower our people as a government and stop borrowing money from outside to come and also fund the same very things.
Now, as a Kenyan and as a young man, I share some of the sentiments that have been given by one of a Kenyan. He's like, okay, fine, we are the people who are going to bear the debt. And so if the government does not do anything, then definitely it's going to get worse. And then policy making. Come on, the Kenyan government can do better than what we are saying right now in terms of reducing the expenditure. As he has mentioned, there is a lot that the government can do. But one final thing that probably a lot of Kenyans definitely want to know is, number 1, is the government ready to make sure that we don't continue borrowing a lot? Number 3, our leaders, is it all about talking or there is action to it? And so at the end of the day, me and my ballot, my ballot paper definitely will have will trickle down to the choices that I make on election day.
Thank you, Vincent.
Yeah.
Time now for one more thing, and that's debrief, take home. Now, a lot has been said. Even the president, when he was asked about debt, he compared Kenya's debt to GDP ratio to that of Japan and the United States of America. Now, the difference between Kenya and these two countries is that these countries are able to borrow in their local currency. Japan is able to borrow in the yen. The US is able to borrow using the dollar. Kenya, when we borrow, on the other hand, we borrow using the US dollar. Now take a look at the year 2020, where the dollar versus the shilling went from 101 shillings to 110 shillings. That's 9 shillings on top of what we'd borrowed, and about a 7% appreciation in favor of our creditors. How are we going to pay back that money? That's the question. Every time we borrow, we must ask ourselves, how are we going to pay it back? Cost-benefit analysis. Let me give you an assignment. During your free time, read about Sri Lanka and what happened to the port of Sri Lanka when they were unable to pay back the Chinese their debt. And closer home, take a look at Zambia and read what happened when Zambia was unable to repay back its debt. And also, when you have a little bit of free time in your hands, read about the structural and radical debt reforms that happened in this country in the 90s during the era of President Moi. Then, and only then, will you begin to hold your leaders to account and ask them the difficult questions instead of sympathizing with them when they come to you with political slogans to enable them to ascend into office in 2022 at your cost. That's all we had for you on the show. You can always talk to us at Metropole TV KE, Antondiro Ganga on Twitter, or you can send us an email, metropoletv@metropole.co.ke. The hashtag, as always, Metropole Debrief. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.